Whoa. Hi everybody. Wait, hold on. It's Sunday for me, but this is the Merry Monday. Wait, what's going on? How am I in the future? And why am I here by myself? What is happening? Dave, that's what.
I brought you here specially for the viewers at home. How are you?
I'm good, man. I was drinking coffee and then all of a sudden it was Monday and now I'm here with you.
It's the magical portal. You can probably see it behind you. I got Alanya Rasputin to drop in, creep you out without anyone even knowing, and there you are, nicked you off with your coffee.
Is there possible that you can get me so far into the future that America is kind of good again?
Isn't it great again already? We'll see.
Let's see. Yeah. Chip Zdarsky took over Captain America. So that's great.
There you go. So that's one step forward.
One step forward.
Good to see you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Monday. You're now in Australia.
Thank you. I always wanted to go to Australia. To be honest with you, I have dreamed of fighting a kangaroo. And so I'm excited for Monday kangaroo fights. But first, I have to fight you, apparently, for this show.
You do have to fight. Well, it's less about fighting me, more about how you helping me fight the battle that I've been trying to do for many years, which is the the embryonic nature of this show and how it came about.
Right.
And why it's still West Coast Davengers versus still only 35 cents, because you have been very helpful to me over the last few months and weeks, helping me make a dint into that collection. So
a big one. Yeah. There's still only 35 cents. I mean, it's my honor to be able to add to the legend that is your collection and, the genesis for your channel. Like, seriously, there's not too many things that I strive for more than to help people complete their collections.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful, mate. We'll talk about that later. Before we get started, let's chat. Let's see who's in the chat. We have a number of people and the obligatory housekeeping. So we have Christina Payne. Welcome to everyone. Appreciate you being here. Hit the thumbs up. Thank you, Christina. Christina's dropped a whole bunch of links here.
Yes.
Your links, first of all. So we couldn't not have your link in there. And I'll drop that as well towards the end of the show. So if you haven't already, if you don't know who Dave is, which I find immensely ridiculous if you don't, go and check out his channel, West Coast Davengers. We'll also talk about your direct edition podcast as well.
Yes. My secondary channel.
Yeah, which I recently subscribed to because I didn't realize I hadn't subscribed to it. But
I think that's common for people.
Yeah. And then what's this one? We have the Comic Book Community Awards. Let me just see if I can get that one up.
Which I did throw a harmless bribe out there.
You did. I will bring that up because I do think that's relevant. Happy Sunday. Don't forget, there are 2 more weeks to nominate in the CBC Awards. I put that down below so you can see the link, CBC Awards, and your beautiful comment. Anyone who nominates Dave to win will get a free Turok #1 before 2050. There you go.
Yeah, I got 25 years to get everybody that nominates me and votes for me a Turok. I mean, I think that's easy.
That's more than fair.
Yeah,
it's more than fair. The question's going to be, and I remember my first order from you, Dave. Will it be a specific variant? Because mine was a specific variant.
Yes. However many awards I win or votes I get, I will number and inscribe each Turok signed as the CBC Turok edition.
Yes, you should do that. I won't reveal what mine was, but I'm assuming other people got the same one.
I mean, no two are alike. No two
They're
are
not,
alike.
are they? Okay. No. I got Jiffy Lube.
I have one on my wall that I had signed. I forget what it was for, but this one says, it's an inscription. It says, "Hot book incoming, you Jurassic assholes."
Fantastic stuff. Other bit of news, and I don't know if you saw, but Christina congratulated me on hitting 3K. So we finally went 3K, and I did this. I nicked it off the internet.
I love you 3,000. Nice. Nice.
Thank you all for the support, because that means a lot. But I'll plan a video. I'll do a giveaway at some point. But I wanted to sort of highlight that because It's
That's
quite,
awesome. I mean, that's the only time you can really do that, and it works. 3,000.
yeah,
So you might as well.
exactly. So I think we had Glenn Simpson's here. Good to see you, Glenn. Derek is here. Derek, he's for Dave and Dave. So we'll see how that goes.
Derek, I mean, I'm pretty convinced Derek is the Matrix because he is always everywhere.
He's everywhere.
Yeah,
He's everywhere, and it's great to see him all the time. But it's just literally, I'm on one stream, and then he's like there, and then you'll go to the. It's everywhere, so it's great.
He's a wrench on my channel. He helps run my Wednesday of sales.
Ah, excellent work. Well, no wonder he's there for you then.
Yeah,
I still haven't got my wrench. I've got a few select wrenches. Christina's one of them. She's great. Richard as well, and I think JSS as well. Maybe are mine, but I haven't really dug into it too much because I'm still new to this, as you can probably imagine. We got Derek Hammondtree. Great to see you. I met him at Heroes Con as well, which is where you and I met.
That's right.
Again,
in person.
In person
for the second time.
For the second time, a little bit more fun. Well, not so much fun, but just it was a little bit more organized this time, I'd say. And then we have Thomas. Welcome nice to see you, Thomas. And then I can't see
Action Jackson. Apparently,
up?
Carl Weathers is alive and in the chat.
That's all you need. So, mate, as I say, this whole thing, the genesis of this came from you helping me out in terms of getting some of these still only 35-cent books. And I wanted to dig in a bit in terms of, we talked when we were at Heroes Con about, what you actually do. And I think that's one of the things that I came across your channel very early on, but didn't necessarily realize it was more of a sort of ongoing, this was like what you did. Right?
Yes.
I thought it was just another comic creator doing, the odd piece on, say, a creator or doing something else, but I didn't realize that this was your bread and butter. And that's one of the things that when, you were helping me out with the still only 35 cents run, it became very clear that was the case. So I'd love to hear about how you got started. And and what you actually, like I see you getting collections all the time now as well.
So to go back a little bit, just it's like a weird path. I actually had a job in the comic industry, and then I worked in the event industry also, but COVID hit, and obviously we all remember that. And I got a job as a mailman in Seattle pretty quickly. So I was doing that for a bit, and I don't know where I started to get the idea of like going to garage sales and estate sales and stuff like that here in the Northwest. But me and my buddy, his name's also Dave, we took a road trip. I needed time off at the post office, and we took a road trip. I flew down to the Bay Area, and we hit comic stores and antique malls all the way up the West Coast, up into Seattle. And so to tighten that story up and condense it, I quit the post office because nobody should ever work for the U.S. government or any part of it. And I started buying collections. I started going on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and OfferUp, and I started going to more garage sales and just asking people if they had like geeky stuff, like whether they had figures or video games or cards or whatever. I'd ask them like, "Oh, do you have any comics?" And it would result a lot of times in a conversation, and then somebody, I got a box, let me go grab it, or I've got, and kind of around this time, late summer 2021, I started to join the community on Instagram of live sellers, and a side note is I've been selling as a hobby since 99. I've had an eBay account since 99, and I've been selling for that long. So I've worked in sales in sports memorabilia. I'm no stranger to selling and also having to sell with my personality.
Yeah.
And so, I started buying collections and doing this, and little by little, I gained an audience, and I started the YouTube channel to show off the hauls, to film while I was going to flea markets in the Bay Area or going to stores, like kind of this all-encompassing thing of like, I love comics, right? I've been reading them since I was a kid. I've been collecting them since I was a kid. I've been meeting artists and like going to conventions since I was a kid. So I think if that was going to be my resume, I'm pretty qualified to start a channel talking about comics, especially because I would look around, and I think you know this because we talked about this.
Yeah.
I look around at channels and they specialize in a thing. Well, they specialize in omnibus reviews, or they specialize in being negative about comics, or they specialize in only interviews. But Cartoonist Kayfabe was the genesis for me looking at another channel and being like, hey, I can talk about comics from the fan perspective, from the historical perspective. I can't talk about it from the cartoonist perspective. So I lean into the fan aspect of it.
Yeah.
But in a way that you do with your channel, it's like, I want to know a little bit more about the people behind these comics, or behind the production, or behind the print runs, or the fans who became artists, writers, or the guys that, you know, the fans that started conventions like San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So buying collections was a learning curve. You know, I bought a couple of, I never lost money.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, good. I'm smart enough to not lose money, but there were a couple collections that I bought early on that I was like, if Dave now bought them, he'd be like, what the hell are you doing, man?
What are you doing? But I think the early days, and it's funny, when I first got back into collecting, same thing. You don't know what you don't know, and you sort of throw extra money down thinking you're doing the right thing, or you haven't gone through the book. Like, that's the thing. I look at the way you go through the books now when you do your videos, and you've got the black gloves and you're going through them. And the thing that struck me from even going back to older videos, there's things that you can tell you don't know something about one book. Maybe you know a lot about other books, but you can see that learned knowledge over the years playing out in your most recent videos in particular. Like I know the copy of the Twilight Zone that is the first
Frank Miller,
Frank Miller. And it was, so that suddenly piqued my interest. And I'm like, okay, now I've got to look for that book. Thanks, Dave. But that's the sort of thing.
Yes. And you're right. You don't know what you don't know, but that's the beauty about learning by trial and error. And, you know, I 2020 or maybe 2019, I had no clue what a Mark Jeweler was. No clue. Wasn't a thing. You know, like, it wasn't a thing. And, you know, I mean, like, I'm not trying to be egotistical, but I don't think anybody's come across as many Mark Jewelers, anybody in the comic and YouTube space, than I have. I mean, I've got to have crossed, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 Mark Jewelers at this point. And you're right. The first couple of months I was doing this, I was like, what the hell's a Mark Jeweler? People talking about it. You know,
and we talked about this at dinner, and I always remember we talked about the National Diamond versus Mark Jewelers, and I'm still amazed that that's not a thing, that people haven't recognized that. And I don't. Sometimes I go, should I do a video on this? Because actually everyone just thinks it's a Mark Jewelers, but actually we do need to delineate between these two as well.
Hold on one sec. I'm having a problem with my microphone here. Okay. It sounds good, right?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay. That's the thing. To me, and you know, because we don't have too much, you know, information on who used to own these companies, I'm still under the assumption the National Diamond becomes Mark Jeweler, or they merge. And so, but I 100% understand, to the collector's brain, there is a delineation between the two. They're two different names, and they're two different paper stocks. And, you know, you learn that.
And not only two different paper stocks, the things that I find amusing about them is it is all diamonds on Mark Jewelers. Like, it's all jewelry, right? And then if you look at National Diamond, it's one page, and then you get 2 or 3 other sort of ads that are on there as well. So it must have been, it's a weird one, but the fact that no one delineates that, I mean, even CGC don't put that on the label. Right?
No, I mean, well, CGC does the bare minimum anyway, as it is. So, but it was something that I really enjoyed about buying the collections, was like flipping through them and learning, and like leaving that information in my brain, mixing with the visual of whatever the cover is or whatever artist it is, and like, okay, next time I see this book, I know what it is. I mean, the collection that these 35-cent books came from, the funniest thing about it was, I shot the video. It's a long video and it's a lot of work. I was in that garage for, like 9 hours. And my first pass is always my first pass, is what everybody on the channel will see. But my second pass is the one where I have to sit there and like fine tooth comb. And I'm making the dollar pile after I shot this video, and a couple of days later, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do some dollar box stuff and thin out, the organization that way. And I pass by a bunch of Charlton books and I throw them in a pile, and I'm like, something's not right about this one book. And it was a Fightin' Five first appearance of Peacemaker. It almost went in my dollar box, but I must have seen that book at some point.
Yeah.
And none of the details stuck out. Maybe it was just the layout of the characters on the cover, but I'm like, something about Fightin' Five sticks out in my mind. And it was the first appearance of the Peacemaker, because it's a backup story. He's not on the cover.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. And like,
everyone chases that Peacemaker 1, right?
Everybody thinks that one's the big book, but it's Fightin' whatever, or Fightin' Five number 26. I can't remember the number.
Amazing stuff. We have a couple more in the chat. So Vincent's joined us. Hello, welcome.
I'm going to take out my...
Yeah, no problem. And we've got Dr. Plagueis. Welcome. Double Dave today. Yes, indeed. And I think we're back. Oh, whilst you're doing your headphones. Yeah, sure. You can wait. We can wait. I might bring up...
This isn't working.
No worries, Dave. We can
no longer have any audio. That's great. All right, putting these back in then.
Technical issues. What's happening? What's happening, my friend?
My MacBook speaker didn't want to give me your voice, so I'm putting the headphones back in, the earbuds.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
Yeah.
So I was going to talk about as well. One of the things, and I'll bring the camera up, because this book is not a book that you found in your collection, but this is a book that you've done, which I got from you, and I actually gave one of these to John and Richard, to John.
Right, from Bronze and Modern Gods.
Yeah, from Bronze and Modern Gods. Let me add this to the stage, because I wanted to talk about this, because I have a lot of questions, all positive, but a lot of questions. So this is your book, The Many Faces of Jack Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell people about it? So, I mean, I could probably not do it justice, but for those of you who don't, it's a book with Jack Kirby faces throughout and original art where there's suitable. They're all comic panels, right?
Mm-hmm. Pages, panels. We tried to change it up with not just panels, but splash pages and quarter panels. I'll give you the real quick on it, because it's kind of goes in line with what we were just talking about. Over last summer or last spring, I got a collection that was high grade, late silver bronze stuff. And the person was a Kirby collector. So all the Fourth World, Captain Victory, and then a lot of the, late period Marvel stuff. And when I prep a sale, when I prep books for sale, I do a flip through of everything. I have to. I don't want somebody spending even $20 and getting a book that's missing a page or whatever. Plus, how many books have I found that are signed in my own collections? I started to notice that, like, we know Kirby for so many things. Godfather of the Marvel Universe, or the father of the visual Marvel Universe. Kirby Crackle, machines, creating all these characters. But I started to notice all of these different faces he used to do. Emotion. You'd see different emotion. You'd see different facial patterns. You'd see some of the same in different genders. Maybe a zombie and a man that's a woman that's not a zombie. But nobody talked about it. And so I started to kind of log this stuff in my brain. And I have my buddy who he's the co-publisher of that book, Andrew. Andrew PCC on Instagram. And I hit up Andrew and I was like, well, Jim Rugg was the motivation for the zine because we talked about making zines. So I hit up Andrew and I said, hey, would you be interested in maybe designing a zine where we do, faces of Kirby like this, and
Yeah.
his contribution to that, like the adding to that sentence was like, would you want me to photograph the actual books? And I said, yeah,
Mm.
let's do it that way. And so I sent the books to Andrew, and he photographed. We sequenced it together, and it was a real collaborative effort. I mean, like, I have never done something with somebody that was like unequivocally, it was just 50-50. I
Yeah.
guess unequivocally wouldn't be that. Anyway, it was a 50-50 collaborative event. And he did such a great job photographing this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just, we wanted it to be a tribute to the aspect that all comics are physical pieces, right? Like, we're not doing this with digital artwork. We are photographing the actual comics.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I like, is that that's part of the reason why I collect, right? I could go and read a book and on digital, but it's not the same. It's just
Right.
not the same. And that's
Right.
what I like about the book, is that you've got these pages, and then you zoom into the pages. And I've noticed this recently on some of my thumbnails. When I get the books, the high-res scans, I'll scan in to zoom into one little piece, and you can see the paper and how the ink bleeds, and
The
that's
yellowing.
and that's the stuff. So, did you have to do anything? Like, it's a zine, right? So, do you have to get rights, or?
No, I mean, it's it's a self-published scene, and what we did was they were 20. We released the second one this year. We
Yeah,
sold. I mean, I think at this point,
here it is.
I can confidently say we sold at least 200 copies of Volume One, and probably close to 125 of Volume Two.
Yeah,
But what we did is we factored in the costs. 20% of the sales all went to the Kirby Museum and Research Center,
yeah,
and yeah, we made our money back and got some books into people's hands. And I mean, this is what zine culture is all about. I mean, that's, without zines, comics probably would have died in the early 80s,
yeah.
if not the late 70s.
Exactly.
So then that's what we also wanted to pay tribute to. Like, me and Andrew are both absolutely engaged and obsessed with zine culture, and like
Yeah,
finding old comic zines, because you get to see all this artwork you may never see again.
yeah.
I'm so proud of doing this. Oh, so that page right there on the left. Ooh, go back. That from splash page from Satan 6 #1. I own that page.
You do. Wow,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
It's my
awesome.
only Kirby page.
I still have to get a Kirby, and we talked about this as well at Heroes.
Yeah.
It was on my list, and unfortunately, I didn't make enough to be able to do it. Sort of pull the trigger, but I will. There will be a point. I will get something at some point.
You know what? I mean, unfortunately, you can't, with Kirby stuff, like the stuff, there's always something that will come up that you will find. But
Mm.
if you set your heart on one piece, yeah, it's a tough one with his
Yeah,
stuff, because I've seen auctions with 30 Kirby pages,
yeah,
and then you get the one you want, but you'll get one eventually.
yeah. Exactly. I'm not. It's one of those. I want the right one. The one I was looking at was that Hulk one.
Yeah,
That
that
looked
was a
really
beautiful
good, but it did.
piece.
Yeah, it was a beautiful piece. And even though it was made out to somebody else, like, that's the other thing. Sometimes I go, there's going to be a limited audience for something that's personalized, and actually, that's probably the opportunity, because
Yeah,
you can get
yeah.
them.
I think about that when it comes to artwork, is like sometimes personalized stuff goes for a lot of money, and then sometimes it doesn't. And I think it just depends on the piece, but the personalization can definitely sink or swim one.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, with these zines, we started mentally working on something, but we haven't found the right way to print it yet. And then I'm definitely going to do a Darth Jar Jar zine once I have like 20-25 pieces that I've commissioned.
So tell us about Darth Jar Jar, because I've seen some of those artworks, and I've heard the stories. But for the audience, it'd be good for them to get a sense of why you, well, why you chose that.
Why? Well, why is Dave the way
Why?
he is? But I mean, I saw episode one when I was, Star Wars episode one came out when I was just getting out of high school, and I think like everything that I do in my life starts off as a joke and then goes serious. And
Yeah.
I just started, I was like, everybody's does their art commissions and they do their comic book characters. And I'm like, let me just start commissioning some of my indie artist friends to do them because I want to support them. And
Yeah.
Darth Jar Jar is like an internet fan fiction meme that actually exists now in the Lego Star Wars universe, that he was the real Phantom Menace and he was the real Sith Lord. And I just think it's an opportunity. You can have 40 Wolverine commissions, right? You could collect Wolverine commissions and they're all going to be like something grounded in something we already know. It's
Mm.
going to be in the Marvel universe, something. Darth Jar Jar is like me giving you a prompt and you do whatever you want. There's no way I'm going to be upset about it because I already like your art. So
Yeah.
why would I be upset at what you do? And if anybody hasn't seen the Way Shack one from Heroes Con, I mean
The,
it's a masterpiece. It is a
yeah.
masterpiece, an artistic masterpiece.
It's nightmare fuel and a masterpiece.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, I mean, it's just me being me. Like I enjoy an inside joke. I enjoy, like I said, everything I joke about eventually becomes serious. The Turok thing was always a joke, and now it's like, I mean, I had Bart Sears on my channel, and I don't think he's a joke. And then I got at OAX this year, I
Yeah.
filmed a little snippet of Bart Sears holding up the original Turok 1 cover that Albert Moy had just sold it to Dinesh. And it's like, yeah, sure, I talk about this book as a joke, but everything goes serious with me
Yeah.
eventually, or it becomes canon, let's say, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the right way to play it. Like it's the right way to play it. Again, a lot of people, and this is the thing that I've pivoted away from. And
Mhm.
I hear you talk about it as well, is that I'm digging, and we talked about this at dinner. Like I'm digging deeper
Sure.
as we go. You find out more things. You want to sort of not that it's ever going to be a big thing, but you want to educate people on more
Mhm.
and more stuff, as opposed to just pulling out a Hulk 181 for the 30th time, right?
Seriously. I
Uh,
mean,
I mean, it's
look,
nice.
yeah, it's nice. It's nice. It's nice to have these crazy, crazy books. But the thing is, and I harp about this on my channel to my friends in person, like anybody that's within earshot of me through a screen or in person, we're talking about comics or anything that's art, is that uh, if we don't dig in and get interested in the mediums that we supposedly care about, they go away
Yeah,
because surface level does not build community. It does not breed consumers long term. If you're not reading comics and you're going to your store buying them weekly, you are going to be burned as hot and as hard as you possibly can if you're not interested in the comics that you're buying.
yeah,
And I, just like you, want to bring everybody with me because I'm naturally uh, curious and I'm naturally interested in what makes these things exist, what inspires the artists and writers that create them, and the history that they come from.
yeah.
So to me, I would be doing the interviews with creators and stuff if there were three people watching. I don't care, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the point. Well, for some of us, that's true. I whenever one of the mistakes I made was the creator. So it's funny. This is one thing I would like to ask you. When I do the creator interviews,
Hmm.
you get very few views,
Yes.
right? And that is, to your point, I'm okay with that because I'm shining a light on this creator. You do the same thing.
Hmm.
Um, it's but it is a level of frustration that there's this, a video would get more views if you were talking about the Hulk 181, right?
Or there was
Versus having this,
controversy.
yeah, all this piece, yeah, exactly, all controversy. But these artists that have brought us this work, or writers that have been involved in creating these characters, they don't seem that doesn't get as much attention, which disappoints me.
It's a twofold thing, right? Yes, people care about the surface level stuff because it requires them no thought, no thinking, no emotional attachment. It's just a dollar sign when it comes to comics. But I will say this about the interviews. Clearly, the biggest video on my channel will always be my Todd McFarlane interview, but that's because like my channel and I am tied to him in every way, shape, or form. He's, I kind of built my channel on loving Todd.
Yeah.
But in the long term, some of these interviews do better because the one thing is that we forget to remember that the algorithm can work for us in the long term. Let's say Stan Sakai decides to end Usagi Yojimbo. My interview will probably get a huge uptick because people will start Googling and they'll find it. But it does bum me out that they don't get the views. Like today's video. My video that I dropped today after the Todd video is probably going to be the video that has the biggest pop and start. I mean, I'm already at like almost 2,000 views and it's been, whatever, like 6 something hours. But I'm so much happier that last week a week and a half ago, I interviewed Chip Zdarsky and, I'm recording again with Daniel Warren Johnson in a couple weeks. And like, I recorded with Stan Sakai, like that makes me proud. Yeah. And I know that the core audience is going to love these interviews, even if they don't have an interest in who I'm talking to. Yeah. But, at the end of the day, if I make a video that's got me holding a, ASM 129 and the thumbnail says, I can't believe I spent this much money, 7,000 people are going to watch that video in a month.
Yeah. Yeah. It's how I think you and I have both got this. It's this idea that we want to try and preserve the moments as we, preserve that history, tell people about that history, and actually get those creators. Like we have very different creator types that we latch onto, which is a great thing because I learn more from your channel. Same thing, and it's one of those. I would do it, to your point, if it was only 3 people, even if there's no people watching, because I have now been able to dig into that moment with that creator and understand what was going on. No one cares about them. No one, well, not people do care, but no one is necessarily. Not many people are interested in, say, Marvel UK, right? I've had 2 interviews with Alan Murray, which have completely changed my view and the history of how that all came to be. And uncovering those little nuggets has helped in my collecting journey around original art and how, everything was created in the US, brought to the UK, not created in the UK, which is what I thought it was. So things like that, and then from a modern standpoint, you talking to Chip or talking to Todd, one of the things that I was thinking recently is I'd love to catch up with Rob Liefeld, because what's interesting about Rob is he's obviously, he was part of it and was a fan. Same as Todd, right? Same thing. They both cared deeply about the medium, went into the medium and became superstars, which is great.
Yes. And I would love to get Rob on, and I've tried, and I have never gotten a straight yes from him, but I think it'll happen eventually. But the end of the day also is like, look, in the last 5 years, we've lost so many creators that, even 20 years before they're, I mean, like Neil Adams, one of those, like one of those guys that like he bridges almost 3 gaps from the golden to the silver to the bronze. And like, I would love to have had him on. Steranko is a guy that like, well, if you can get through the BS, he'd be a great interview too. Yeah. But I'd love to, I'd love to talk to as many people as possible. I have an vested interest in this. And then on, going into it, I wanted to, mention, obviously I have to self-promote anyway. Yeah. But my idea was, I started Direct Edition, which is an additional channel / podcast. I'm on my 65th episode as of Monday, which I'm super proud of, but I'm slowly moving the interviews over there because it seems that if you have a podcast and it's not a channel built on anything else, sure, it's slower to build that audience, but people are there to hear the direct, either me to audience conversation or me to guest and sharing that with the audience conversation. And I'll talk to pretty much anybody I have a vested interest in when it comes to art, whether it's comic. I've cracked a bunch of musicians on there. I'm trying to crack the Hollywood nut, but that is the hardest one to crack with interviews.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, if I could bring a conversation with me and Pedro Pascal to the channel, I mean, I
Yeah.
would love to talk to a
You'd
guy
love
like
to.
that.
Yeah.
You know,
And so,
or Dave Filoni or Kevin
yeah.
Feige or John Favreau. Like, give me everybody. I'll talk to them.
So is that how you see that one playing out? Like, I mean, it's interesting because I hadn't thought of that's how you were positioning direct edition. So you're broadening the scope of it. So it's a pure podcast and it could be anybody.
Exactly.
Right.
Illustrator, fine artist, musician, anybody. I have something inside of me that wants to have conversations with people, um, partially to help them promote whatever they're promoting, if they're an artist or musician, whatever, and just to satisfy my love of talking and like
Yeah.
curiosity of asking questions that most people aren't going to think of, or most angles that people aren't going to go. I don't think I'm special, but I do think I have a knack for it.
Yeah. No, I enjoy it. As I say, I enjoy all the videos that you do in terms of pulling those together. And I think it is great that you're now delineating the two. Would you keep, because the Todd's on your main channel, right?
Yeah, it is on direct edition, but I just threw it on there as a filler when I first started out. I didn't put much into it, but Sakai was one of those interviews, and Chip. Those were the two tests. And with Sakai, I did an hour on West Coast Davengers, but then I had asked him like 5 or 6 questions and made that a bonus episode on direct edition. With Chip, I finally figured it out. You preview the conversation on the one channel and get people to go over to the other channel. And I told Chip that I was going to do that, and he's like, "That sounds like a great idea."
Yeah. And when you first approach him, like, how does that go? Like, I mean, the good news is obviously you're already well entrenched in the creator community anyway, right?
It's hard. Sometimes you just got to figure out who, Chip had a Substack. Chip has a Substack, and I think I messaged, and he gave me his manager's name and email address, and with Todd was like the trickiest thing of all time, and I ended up asking him via one of his live talks on his Discord, and he said to reach out to his son. His son would connect with his assistant. Like, you just got to be creative. And I mean, look, if I told you how much time I spent during the week doing research on trying to figure out how to reach people, you'd be like, that's an entire work day's work.
But it is. I mean, having done it myself, it's impossible. Like, I find the best place, the starting point, is cons.
Mm-hmm.
Because at least then you've got them right in front of you. You can ask the question. They're generally nice because they want to sign your books. Or you'll get a piece of art from you. So it's generally that's a good spot. I think emailing out of the blue, it never works. Very rarely for me.
Sure. Right? It's tough because a lot of times these emails go into junk or they never get seen. And Thomas, yes, I would love to get Kevin Smith on the program. He would never shut up, and I would love that. I
was going to just pull a couple of people up just quickly as well, because we've got a few extra guests. So the Comic Collector Coach is in the house. We have Simon's here. Turret versus Jar Jar would be an interesting crossover, which I agree. Glenn, we've already covered off. Razor Ramaz is in here. Rosa Raman, sorry, is in here. I loves creative interviews. And I think we're up to date. But what was the comment that you were talking about?
Oh, Thomas Bliss had mentioned about Kevin Smith. He would like to come on. I'm like, I'm sure, I'd have him on. Of course.
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith.
Yeah. It's funny, like Kevin Smith, his collateral for me has gone down.
Sure.
But I definitely see his, I loved his work early on. And I was watching the Superman Lives story.
Oh, it's such a good documentary.
Which, again, and just seeing how that whole debacle played out, and how what could have been.
Hmm.
You know, like you can see where he, like those are the sort of things I'd love to sort of tap into, and or you to tap into.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
he would be in my top for somebody that crosses over and from,
mm,
movies to comics, because he's obviously had a successful career in both. Plus, he's a
yeah,
good ambassador for our community.
yeah,
And that's a big thing, is the community aspect, and like bringing positive chats
yeah,
to people instead of just, whatever gets people to click. Like, I'm not interested in it. I know how to play
yeah.
the game. Like, when I had Chip on, I cut a reel about him talking about you couldn't make money in comics anymore. Or, this is coming from a standpoint of somebody that's been successful across the board in comics.
Mm,
And I posted it on all my socials, and it went viral on TikTok, and it was pretty interesting to see that. And I didn't have to do anything. We were having a conversation, and the conversation went to some of the heavier topics, because at the end of the day, you know, uh, the comics industry is extremely flawed, and for
yes.
creators. And, I, sometimes I look and I'm like, man, if only these guys resold comics as well as created comics, they make some more
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, well, that's it's because I've seen a few of them doing that, right? But they only do
Yeah.
their own book. They only do their own books. But um, it that's probably why the cons are so big for them, because that's where they make their big money. Because
Hmm.
obviously we're, as fans, paying bigger money than say Marvel are for a page.
Seriously. And
Right?
I'm happy to do that. I'm
Yeah,
much
sure.
happier to do that. I
Yeah,
will always make it a point that I'd rather put money in the pockets of artists
yeah.
than anybody else involved in comics. It goes artists, comic stores, and nobody else.
It's funny that because it's I'd hate to be a comic book writer,
Yeah.
right? Because you have nothing really that you can sell. Like,
But they can do more work. They can get
yeah,
more work for hire. They can create more. Like Zdarsky right now has got, I mean, at any given time, he's got 2 to 5 books.
yeah, yeah,
So, um, but yeah, so direct edition, and I just want to put this out there,
yeah, sure.
because once again, I do have to be smart. I am 11 subscribers away from 8,000 on West Coast Davengers, and I am somewhere like 90 or 88 on direct edition from 500 on YouTube. And you see that McFarlane Spider-Man over here,
Yeah,
the statue. When I hit 500 on direct edition, and I hit 8,000 on West Coast Avengers, I'm going to give that away for free.
awesome, Dave. That's it's great. So yes, if you haven't checked out the channel already, I've just put the link up so everyone can see it. We
Awesome.
are coming close to time anyway, Dave. But I did want to say thank you.
I hate that you have to that you have to work in the morning, because it's
I
like I
do.
want longer shows. I
You can
like
do longer
watching
shows.
you. I like watching you for more than, like when you do a longer show, I enjoy it.
I try to do the longer show. Sometimes my batteries don't work and play me out. But for the most part, yeah, I'll try and do longer shows. It is always fun to chat, and I can stay a little bit longer. I just say it's probably do
Listen,
have to draw it to a close soon. But
why don't we call your boss, and I'll get on the phone and I'll say, listen, this is the US government speaking. We're trying to kill all the tariffs. So leave Dave talking to me.
leave Dave talking to me. So on the back to direct edition,
Hmm.
and I'd probably know the answers to this. If there was one person dead or alive that you could get on the show, and you can qualify one with one is alive, one is dead, I pretty much think I know who the dead one would be.
Okay, if we're talking comics, I'm gonna do 2 categories. I'm gonna do comics and music.
Yeah,
Comics, Kirby, 100%.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, because like there's so many interviews with Stan Lee out there. There's not a ton with Kirby. There's a lot in print, but there's not a ton audio and stuff. Living in comics, number one on my bucket list at this point. It's gonna be Sankiewicz. Yeah,
yeah,
it's got to, Music, living, uh, Eddie Vedder,
Yep.
and dead music. Um, I'll go with Cobain. Kurt Cobain.
Okay. Yeah. That
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay.
Jacob said Bernie. Bernie would be my next one.
For Mr. Wrightson.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
reason why I want to talk to Kirby is, I mean, he's a World War II vet. Like that's like we've
Yeah.
got the comics, and then we've got the World War II vet. Like holy hell! And he created Captain America, and then
Yep.
he went on years later to create Fantastic Four and Spidey and all of X-Men and all this stuff.
It's funny. I've been researching Kirby recently for a video that's up and coming, and I completely hear you. Very underrepresented in interviews.
Yeah.
And there's I think a lot of misunderstanding about just how much of an impact he had on this stuff. Because there's always the line, right? He who shouts loudest, right? And he never shouted, he shouted through his art, right? And through his stories.
And his characters that he created too,
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I think that's one of the things. You talked about fanzines earlier, and actually that's interesting because I'm starting to come across some of those. It's a bit of a lost art. Like he did a whole bunch of interviews in those fanzines, and if you can find them, that would be fantastic. I'm assuming original art too.
Well, also to the point of what Jacob said, Dr. Plagueis, Bernie. I mean, he did more fanzines. I mean, I would say it's like Steranko, Bernie, Dave Cockrum. Like, there's so much art in fanzines from those guys. Neil Adams, Sakai, and I'm fascinated by him. I mean, bridging the two gaps between the talking about comics and the podcast. I pitch my podcast to people as like a modern day tribute or successor to classic fanzine and fandom culture, because that's really where all this stuff survives. Music, horror movies, comics, they get second, third, and fourth lifespans through fanzines and come back up. San Diego Comic-Con is a fan started convention,
Yes.
And look where it is now.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that. And I was thinking about this as well. Is like we are, to all intents and purposes, the way I see the channels that we all own, we're our own little fanzines. So, little known fact, I used to run a fanzine years and years ago, music fanzine.
Oh wow!
Back in when I was in my 20s. So, my formative years. So I used to run a Prince fanzine years and years ago.
Oh wow!
And so I know that sort of vibe, and I always remember how much work it was to create that, especially when it's difficult when you're writing about one thing or one artist, right? Because you've literally only got. But I think that's the beauty of this. I see YouTube as almost the new fanzines now, so it's great to sort of take from that. But how do you find? Like, I feel like fanzines are a sort of lost art to some degree. There is a lot of work. I love what you've done, but that labor of love, but you're not having to write this. There's no actual.
There's no copy. Yeah.
And that's the hard part. I always find.
Sure. That's why I have a podcast, because I don't want to write it. I want to talk it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's. Do you see that? Is that how it's playing out now? Is that everything's moving to these mediums as the fanzines, and it's our responsibility to keep fact checking, finding stuff out, and bringing it to light?
I think so, because how is information passed on through generation, right? It's only done with direct, peer to peer or whatever, community to community. It doesn't just exist out there. Someone's got to bring it forward, and people have to consume it, whether it's read it or watch it or listen to it, and then it gets passed on. But I love that. I mean, physical media in every way, shape, or form is coming back, and it keeps fighting against the digital era, even though right now we are part of the digital sphere with this show. But people should create more fanzines, write it, type it up, staple it together. I have a couple of ideas that would require somebody to illustrate a fanzine for me. But I collected autographs in person for about 2 decades,
Yeah.
and I've met pretty much everybody I ever wanted to meet. And there's stories written down about a lot of these encounters,
Yeah.
and would be a fun fanzine to create as like the Dave Wexler fan encounter or whatever, call it. I don't know what I would call it.
Yeah. It's funny. I do sometimes reminisce about the fact that I could create that, and sometimes I think about, do I take the videos and turn them into blogs? Because I don't know what your process is, Dave, especially when you're doing the interviews or some of the history stuff.
Yeah.
I know when you're doing like the claim sales on the Wednesday, whenever you're doing like a haul, it's literally just Dave being Dave, right?
Yeah.
But I do scripts, and then
Mm-hmm.
Obviously those scripts could be turned into, proper copy and use something similar. Do you have a process like that, or do you is it always like just pure off the cuff, Dave?
Believe it or not, I have never written a single thing down for either my podcast or my channel. I do write notes for the interviews. I use a comic backing board. I put it up on an easel here. Sometimes it's full questions, and sometimes it's just words. I don't think most people can operate like that, but my ad lib skills have always been there. And so,
but you're also knowledgeable. But you're also knowledgeable. So that's the trick I find, right? Like, what was that? Sorry, Dave. I have to go. Good to see you. Thanks, Derek. And then we've also got Ryan. Us talking of original art, Ryan Cross, who's fell into the trap.
Ryan's the best.
He's cool. So he's a bit of news for everyone watching. Ryan very kindly invited myself and I think Justin Birch to, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say, I'll maybe wait for him, but yes, we may be joining a certain crew.
Cool.
Which I'm very excited about. So Dave, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We should do this more often. As I say, the amount of times when we caught up at Heroes, it was just we had a great dinner, hung out, and very similar conversation to what you've just witnessed. It's always a pleasure having you on the show because you are, as I say, one of these people that we can go deep on the history, and I'd love to do that at another point in terms of bringing you back on. If you haven't already, as I say, check out Dave's channel, check out Direct Edition. Hopefully, you will. It's easy to find. I'm assuming so, Dave. I haven't put
Direct
the link
Edition podcast, very easy. Yeah,
excellent work.
It's got a website too. So
you do have a and westcoastdavengers.com, which is good. Which is something I'm remiss. I have never got around to doing mine. So, and if you're lucky, you might get one of Dave's. I've shown this before. One of Dave's fantastic trading cards. You don't do things by half, my friend.
I can't. It's just something inside of me. I want it to be quality. I want it to be funny, and I want it to be part of my personality. And I appreciate you for having me on, and also like just being a good person. Like in general, like a good person in this community. I can, friendship aside, like if I had never met you, I'd still think that you were an awesome person in this community.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. And you too. And I will look forward to hammering you on a Wednesday claim sale when you bring out some of that weird ephemera that I and a couple of other people have only seemed to be interested in. Which is one thing that's one of my favorite things about your channel as well. And again, for those of you who haven't checked it out, Dave, he'll bring out books, but you will get crazy pieces like this.
That's right.
Talking about Bill Sienkiewicz, you'll get like portfolios, you'll get posters, you'll get these fanzines. And I think that's the thing that I really love about the channel is that you're not just getting what everyone else is getting. You're sure you can get that stuff, but it's keeping the history alive. And that's thank you for that, Dave. I think it's actually a great thing.
Appreciate that. And look, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love the medium, if I didn't love what I do and the community that's around it. And I'm here for the long haul. I eventually would, like I said, like to be a more interviewer and shower of things than have to hustle on a 24/7 basis. But hey, I'm here.
So if you know anyone and you want Dave to interview them, get them in touch with Dave.
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Edition Show. All right, mate. Just in terms of updates for the channel, have you got any other videos coming out that you want to sort of shout out before we close off?
Today's video is great. You're going to see a lot of weird stuff. Big thanks to Dr. Plagueis for being a part of that video. Got another top 10 Spawn covers, but this time it's Capullo coming soon. And I have some interviews on the books, but nothing recorded yet. But a new episode of Direct Edition drops tomorrow morning. And I think that's it. Oh, and this week, Wednesday and Thursday, I'm doing a 2-night sale.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll be working extra hard.
Excellent.
This week.
And if you want a little bit more Dave fun, I will be showcasing the books that he helped me with next week. Over in the last one, I will be showcasing some of the books that Dave recently sent me next week in the next Merry Monday Mailcall Show. So stay tuned for that. And with that, take care of yourselves, everyone. Great to see you in the chat. Love you all 3,000. And we'll see you very, very soon. Take care.